Welcome to the World Cup Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the west coast of the U.S., Josh Lander, joined by my mate Dan Tracy across the pond. Dan, how are you today, sir?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. There's no let up in this World Cup, and there's no let up in our World Cup conversations in terms of betting. So happy to do more of the same on this episode.
Yes, sir. And we'll be talking about a team that most, if not all of our viewers, probably care about, which is that USA team taking on Iran. But we'll move our way backwards as we normally do, Dan, with the game that ends here the day, which will be Wales and England. I also want to remind you guys to like and subscribe to the page. We are going to be coming at you each and every day of this World Cup. No sleep until December 18th. So make sure you are continuing to follow along with us. Also, you can follow Dan's articles on thelines.com, where he's got great stuff for you guys about all the matches and a ton of other stuff that we have up there that we've been bringing you guys this whole World Cup so far. Also have our odds finder tool on there so you can shop those lines to the best of your ability. Make sure you're getting the best juice back on all of those bets. Dan, let's go ahead and kick things off here on day 9. It's Tuesday the 29th that we're looking at here for these games. Wales and England, as we mentioned, kick it off. The Welsh are really struggling at this point and drowning. Plus 700 in the three-way market. Draws plus 350, England minus 225. I'll just toss it over to you, Dan, and see what you have to say about the way that the English team does have a tie against those US mates there, but against the Welsh, they are heavy favorites.
They are, but I guess there's an element of jeopardy throughout Group B, which makes this and the USA-Iran game so interesting. So when you look at Wales's point of view, they have to win anything less than they are going on that first flight home. England's bar a 4-0 or more defeat, they are safe and they are going to be in the round of 16. But ultimately, they're going to want to win the group. So it's not a case of them just sort of turning up and thinking, okay, well, a point will be fine. Because if they have that attitude, it might be the Netherlands in the round of 16. So really, for different reasons, it's a must-win game for both, if that makes sense. So with that in mind, I don't really like the look of England on its own at minus 225. I feel that's far too skinny in what is a derby match. You don't really get them in international football, but with the way that England and Wales are on the same bit of land, it is for all intents and purposes. So because of that, you never would really bet on a derby game with sort of narrow odds because the form book always goes out the window. So I feel the form book is going to be more inclined to go in England's direction, but I'm sort of thinking more towards an England win and both teams to score. You can get that at plus 300, which I feel is a good starting point, because I feel that because Wales are going to have to play better, they can't play as bad as they did in their last fixture. They need goals. You know, they've had sort of Gareth Bale up top, and by that penalty kick against the USA, he's been isolated. So they're going to have to bring him into the game more. I think the team are going to have to help him out by helping themselves by getting further up the pitch. So it's going to add an extra level of impetus to their attack. And because of Gareth Bale and him being the big time player and having such a point to prove, this could be his last game of football in a Welsh shirt. It could be his last game of football if he decides, do you know what, I've done it all, I'll pack it in after this. But he's not going to want to pack it in after the group stage. So backing him to score anytime at plus 333 at my end of the pond is also a good shout. It might be an England 2-1 win in the end, but you can't overlook Bale at those odds, because usually it's about sort of 2-1, 6-4. So that's quite good value. When you look at the anytime odds, I think there's first 7 or 8 players are English names. So to get Bale at name number 9, I'd be having a bit of that, even if you feel England are going to win.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think you're probably right about goals. I feel a little bit more comfortable going over. I mean, over 3 goals is minus 120. Obviously not a ton there. If you do want to go up to 4, that's where you get plus 215. That's where I see the biggest jump in value as well in terms of picking goals. Bale, I'm with you on. If you're going to pick a goal scorer in this game, Harry Kane's anytime score is even money. He hasn't done anything to really make you feel really good about him. He still looks like he might be a little bit hobbling as well, right? So, there's nobody there that jumps out at you. Everybody's pretty much plus 200 or less for the top 5 guys for England, and they're all taking away from each other unless you think they're going to have another 6 goals in them. But at that rate, Gareth Bale for anytime score is definitely the best odds. I think over 3.5, if you like the game theory of both teams to score, I do think that you can get England goals 3 over 2.5 as well. I would feel good about. I think they're going to be putting it on the Welsh and happy. And I know you said Derby Day here as close as we can get, so that it does make things, it does make things a little more interesting, right? You can throw a little bit out the window. A few more emotions are probably involved here, and a bit more vigor coming from the Welsh on this side. So I'm happy to take goals in this one as well, as I think I agree with you. Both teams want to. I mean, the English want to come out on top this group, and the Welsh just want to make it to another day if they can. So moving on to the next game that everybody wants, like I said, listening to this video Fabio probably wants us to talk about, which is that USA game here. And yeah, in this one, I think if you told USA fans before this tournament, you're going to be in a position where if you beat Iran, you move on. I think we take it. You tell us that we tie the English and we beat and we need to beat Iran, and that's what we'll take it, right? So in this one, we've got Iran plus 295 on the three-way market. The U.S., who has looked pretty good here, I would say so far in their first two matches, at least results-wise, maybe not as happy as they'd like, but minus 105 on the money line, and a draw is plus 260. The Iranians like to get forward. We've seen that at this point, 2 quick goals against the Welsh there in stoppage time. So what do you make of this one? Should we feel good, and should I feel good about my USA to move on bet?
Well, the thing with the USA, it seems that they've had good 45 minutes in each game. They can't stitch it together to have a good 90, and I think that's going to be the key in this match against Iran. So when you're looking at the match odds of minus 110, I don't know if that is just blind faith and, the kind of hope of the nation. You think, you know what, forget the value, I'm just going to back the USA to win. Because when you look at them and Iran, there's a point difference in what they've got at the moment. You've got to consider it a must-win. Iran can't really afford a draw. They might be able to get away with a draw depending on if England do the business against Wales, but really they can't rely on favours. They're going to be looking for a win as well. So when you look at the way they eventually disposed of Wales, the value pick is probably plus 320 with Iran, to be honest. But then again, can they get the job done? This is the big question. So you've either really got to look at it two ways. You've either got USA at minus 110, or you've got the double chance market of Iran and draw at minus 120. A draw would be good enough if England wins for Iran, so that's plus 250. There's loads of combinations. Really, this might be an in-play bet, to be honest, because when you consider both teams are playing, or all 4 teams are going to be playing at the same time, you might want to wait, 15, 20 minutes, see if there's a goal elsewhere and how that market then still plays in, because that's where extra value could be found. So you might want to sort of hedge your bets and not go in too early. Obviously, we've got about 48 hours notice on this game, but for American fans who are going to be listening to this, you're not going to bet against your own, are you? So you're thinking, how much is enough to really make this bet interesting? Minus 110 is still a decent price. It might be one of those bets where you kind of make the bet and then are watching behind the sofa going, I can't look. So if I'm looking for a safer option, it's probably the USA and under 2.5 goals in total at plus 300. That's where the value really starts. I feel if you come away from the full-time three-way handicap market and look a bit deeper, that's probably the way to go. But, this is almost toss of a coin stuff, and now you're going to have to hope that Uncle Sam gets the job done.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch what the markets do in the live markets because of the fact that these games are so dependent. It's not just that the live markets are going to be impacted by what's happening in the game you're watching. They're also going to be impacted by the other ones. So to your point, just to play it out for people, let's say that the USA find themselves in a position where it's 0-0 in the first half, but they see a situation where the Welsh score on the English. And now you've almost got the likelihood that the Welsh are ahead of the U.S. at that point. Now the U.S. needs a goal, right? And that really sort of that goal in the other match will now impact the odds you have in that U.S. match, knowing that they're going to have to press forward a bit more because there's nothing to lose at that point. It's all or nothing if you want to stay alive. So I think, I hate to say it, I think the value where I find it as well is plus 260 for a draw, because if you're Iran, the likelihood that you'll be in this game and that the English will be ahead of the Welsh at some point in this match, and the Iranians will be happy to sit back and take a draw, means that that's also a pretty strong likelihood of everything I just said happening, which means plus 260 for a draw is huge. Now, even if the U.S. scores first, now Iran's really going to be pressing a bit more, and we've seen them able to play on the attack, also inciting and invoking a potential draw there as if they're able to get one more goal. So I think a draw ahead of time is not a bad play at plus 260 is what you can get it at in some of these U.S. markets over here. Just getting ahead of the idea that all these things are going to be impacted, all the play and the style and the strategy will be impacted by what's happening in both games. And I think it's likely that I'm going to base my bets off of the likelihood that the English are going up 1-2-0 in that first half and really blowing this thing up in a way that Iran knows, just don't lose this game, boys, and we're moving on. So that's where but I also agree that if you like the U.S., and I'm not going to bet against the U.S., and a draw is betting against the U.S. in my opinion. Obviously, they need a win to move on. So I will not be betting that. I just think it is the best value, to be honest with you. I'm just going to sit back and watch this one. I have no desire to place any money on it. I'm being fully honest. But let's move on to that third game here for the day, Dan. On Tuesday, as we keep saying, And it's, Ecuador and Senegal, a game that I care about because I would really like Senegal to move on. That is something that is not as likely at this point because we can probably assume that the Dutch are going to put a hurting on Qatar, in which case Ecuador and Senegal, it just really comes down to if you're Senegal, you need to win this game. If you're Ecuador, you can take a tie or a win and be happy with it. So with all that in mind, plus 210 for Senegal on the three-way line, the draw plus 225, and Ecuador plus 145 to win. Where do you find the value in this one?
To be honest, I think it's with the draw because when you consider that Ecuador have got 4 points, Senegal 3, a draw would do for Ecuador. They're not going to sort of play overly defensive because it's not really in their nature. But at the same time, they don't have to go gung-ho. They could get the first goal and pretty much then shut up shop. So they've got that extra buffer in mind. That's still a good price, but I feel also a better price might be just the draw and under 2.5 goals. That gives you the extra option of a 0-0 draw or 1-1 draw. You can get that plus 275. So just to sort of add a little bit more fat to that. And I feel that Ener Valencia scored in both games for Ecuador. It's not really anyone else who scores for Ecuador at the moment or at all. So backing him again to score is plus 270 or plus 300 if you can get sort of different markets. There's a sort of range on that price, but it's still a good price to get your hat on there. So yeah, I feel, unfortunately for Senegal, I just don't see them having enough. Yes, they beat Qatar, but everyone's turning up and beating Qatar we've seen so far. So I can't. Yeah, I just feel that Ecuador are going to have enough, and I'm not going to be probably the best game. I've probably, say low scoring draw, but that'll be enough for the South American nation. So I'll take that plus 220.
Yeah, I think there's been a little bit of underestimating Ecuador so far this tournament. They have looked pretty good. They looked really good against the Netherlands in the ways that they had to, although you could also argue that the Dutch have not been up to form. Either way, I mean, if you're Ecuador, why not try to win this group at this point, and have a better goal differential against Senegal if you can? I mean, that's another one that you want to see what's happening live. And I think if there's any opportunity for the Ecuador to see the Dutch tied with Qatar or only up a goal or something to that effect, where they they obviously won by 2 goals there, 2-0. And Senegal beat them by 2 goals as well. But I think Ecuador's desire to win the group, we'll see what it's like. But I think to your point, it's not likely that they'll sit back and wait for things to come to them. They're just going to go out and try to get goals. And really, my favorite bet is Ener Valencia to score in this one anytime. And if you get that anytime for him, I definitely recommend using that odds finder tool. There's like you said, there's some pretty big variation and some variance between Ener Valencia's odds on certain markets here. You can find a plus 170 in some spots over here in America. You can find a plus 280 as well on different ones. So definitely use that odds finder tool and bet on Ener Valencia because I would agree with you on that one. So finishing things up, I don't know how much there is to say about this Dutch game against Qatar. I know my friend Mo over at thelines.com has money on Qatar not to get a point, which I think he got at like minus 170 and felt good about it. So, I mean, why not? I think he was hoping that the Dutch would have a bit more to play for, but I think the Dutch, if they want to win this group, they still need to make sure that they take care of business and handle that. So that's the likelihood, I assume, and minus 500 is not where you're finding the value on the Dutch, which is their three-way money line odds to win. So where do you start with this game?
I'll start with total goals as my first pick. So over 3.5 is plus 130. I mean, if you go over 2.5, you're looking at you're looking at minus 188. That's no good at all, really. That's not going to get you interested. So you're looking at least 4 goals in the game, and I can't really even see Qatar scoring. So the Dutch are going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, and they're going to have to be a lot better than they've been in their first 2 games. They've got a lot of interesting components, but it's not quite clicking in terms of attack. You look at Cody Gakpo's been their shining star, but the likes of Steven Bergwijn, without their course Janssen, they've not really flattered too much. So this could be the perfect game for the whole Dutch team to really find the ignition spark, set them up nicely for knockout football. So I feel that the Netherlands are going to win this game. Let's not beat about the bush. Qatar have been useless in this tournament. So I feel that if you want to play it safe, you can get the Netherlands win and over 3.5 goals in total at plus 150. And maybe a goal-scoring bet. There's not a lot of great value, to be honest, because it is Qatar and they're kind of lining up to score. So Memphis Depay, if he's fit, is minus 125. I'm not sure Cody Gakpo gets a 3rd goal in as many games. Sometimes you get you fall into the trap. You see a player score twice in a row and think, right, I'm going to go 3 in a row. I mean, we've just said Ener Valencia, so we're kind of going against myself a little bit, but I'm not sure Gakpo extends the run when he's a left forward. So probably Memphis Depay or maybe Steven Bergwijn at plus 120. But I mean, you're just looking at goal bets in this match. You can't see any value apart from how much the Netherlands are going to rack up to make sure they finish first and avoid a potential clash against England in the round of 16.
And and maybe use this game as sort of a confidence builder, right?
Yeah,
And put
exactly.
a bunch of goals in the back of the net,
Yeah,
right? So I think the couple ways to play that is the first one is what you said already, over 2.5 or over 3.5. Gets really spicy, about plus 300 if you go Netherlands to win plus over, with the over 3.5 as well. You could also do Netherlands minus 2.5. That's plus 140. You're expecting them to win by 3 goals. If they're putting on this, if we're expecting goals from them, let's get it there. If you want to get ballsy here and go minus 3.5 plus 320, I don't know. That's getting very, very ballsy. But I think if you're ready for goals, then that's one way to get some value as well. But as you said, the goals over 2.5, over 3.5 with the Netherlands winning is the only way to really try to find some value if you're going to at least bet on goals and Netherlands there. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. It's time to get back to that Croatia-Canada game that we're watching here on Sunday morning in the U.S. for us. So we will be back to finish up things here with another round of games, and we'll keep coming at you guys, as we said, every day of the World Cup. So until we see you next, happy betting.